don't know how they thought the meeting was going to go, but it went my way. And that is because I fucking well kicked off. I have not survived 3 attempted rapes, been sexually assaulted in the now teens numbers, to have a man in my space.
To female-only spaces.
Oh, so there was one the other day for that as well, wasn't there? Keeping men out of women's spaces. Yeah, it was 100 days since the...
this specifically is about the civil service today and how corrupt that is.
It is corrupt, along with a lot of many other... Have you got lots of evidence for this? And is there speakers talking today?
We have some testimonies from women working in the civil service, but most of them are too afraid to speak out, even if they are completely anonymous.
Is this because they're afraid of losing their jobs and things like that? Yeah. It seems to be a current theme, actually, with a lot of things.
It's quite effective.
Yeah, I do a lot of Christian protests as well, and a lot of people don't come out because, again, they're afraid of losing their jobs. I think people need to get tougher and come out, whether it means losing. I know it's a hard time and you need money, but it's easy in a way. But I still think more people need to kind of bite the bullet and come out and do that.
Hopefully, as she says, courage calls to courage.
Sorry, Mary.
Millicent Fawcett.
Good afternoon, ladies and a few gentlemen. Welcome to the non-heritage park steps of Parliament Square. My name is Kelly J. Keane, and this is Let Women Speak. Now, we decided specifically to come here. Actually, I'm going to start as I normally do. So you're going to have to say the word tough. Can I just say they did it in Germany very well, so you have no excuse. What a day this has been, what a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being a tough. Well done. So we started Let Women Speak so we could say these words, and I'm going to say them today. And can I just say, I said them yesterday in the European Parliament. Which was, no woman has a penis, no man has a vagina, there's no such thing as non-binary, it's not a cult, and transitioning children is profound abuse. Okay, good, well done. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm delighted to see some pink ladies. Well done, ladies. We are totally on your side. We fully support the boundaries of women and girls and children generally. Men, yeah, a little bit. But we primarily focus on the rights of women. What's been going on in schools across the country is related to why I've come here today. And the schools are being advised by the civil service, and the civil service is totally captured. Now I'm talking about things like, if you work in DEFRA, for example, you have no female-only toilets, no female-only spaces, probably pronouns in your bio, but if you work at DEFRA and you happen to be Muslim, you will have a female-only place for ablutions. So there are certain groups that were afforded the dignity and privacy as women, but the rest of us can go screw ourselves. And that is in DEFRA, which, as you know, is dealing with farming and animals. And so what you know is, if in their workplaces they are captured, they're not allowed to speak, then you know that their policies will inform their members that they are also not allowed to speak and they have no rights to female-only space. And that in turn will lead to your children in schools not having the right to male or female-only spaces. And if you don't know this, from the age of 8, you have to have a female-only toilet or changing room. And let me tell you exactly what that means. That means that where you go to the loo, you also have the privacy of being able to wash and dry your hands in a fully lockable enclosed space. So if your schools have unisex or gender neutral toilets and your little girl has to come out and wash her hands in some communal sinks next to a boy, your school is breaking the law. And the reason schools are informed by that is because the civil service arm that delivers policies to schools are completely captured. That will be the same, for example, in the Ministry of Justice, and the civil servants that deal with policy for prisons. Those civil servants are completely captured. They don't have female-only spaces or toilets, and when they raise issues in those policy meetings, they will be told to be quiet. They are seriously at risk of losing their jobs and being bullied at work, which is why amongst this number, that was for me, which is why amongst us here today, there will be lots of women where there's an empty space because they don't feel, even with the chance to be anonymous and create an anonymous story, backstory, name, situation, just so they can talk about what's going on in the civil service, many of them are too afraid to even share their story. And it's absolutely disgusting. So that's what we're up against. Like, we can vote these people out if we want to, but we know that the civil servants are an unelectable, they are unelectable, an unelected, very powerful force that is totally captured by numpties, by people that have an ideological agenda, no matter what. So they won't care that a woman who maybe goes to prison for a non-payment of fines, which is the majority of women in prison, that she is then showering alongside a man who calls himself a woman who will threaten to rape her. And in the American prisons, if you don't know anything about this topic, they hand out condoms in women's prisons because there are so many men in them. So that's why we're here. I've got a couple of accounts to read, but I'm hoping that you lovely, eager, beautiful looking women would actually like to take the microphone and speak. Would anyone like to speak? I'm looking at you flag bearers at the back.
Come on.
Would any of you pink ladies like to speak? No? Yes, come on, you come and speak.
Hi, I'm here because last week in my local leisure centre there was a man in the female changing room. Last week in my leisure centre there was a man in the female changing room. So I went up to him and said, "You're probably a perfectly decent person, but you don't belong here because this is for female people only." And he said, "I am a female. It says female on my birth certificate and on my passport." And I said, "Despite your government lying to you to make you smile, you are a man and you don't belong here." He threatened to call the cops and did so. We went downstairs. I didn't quite match Still Tish in terms of my volume and my language, but I was close. And I can aspire to that and her abs, which I do. So the manager told me that they have a case-by-case policy, which is a visual assessment. If they decide a man looks feminine enough, he is allowed in. I said, first of all, that's not even logical, because a man with a GRC and penectomy who can't get rid of his beard and looks a little butch and maybe likes to wear a comfy tracksuit and blue trainers isn't allowed in, but a man who is intact, takes no medical steps, doesn't have a GRC, but looks pretty, is allowed in. So you're discriminating against men, which is illegal, but you're mainly discriminating against women. The law is clear, it has been clarified. You should be immediately going back to the original accurate policy that females can have a female-only changing room, and that is legal according to the Equality Act. So we are escalating. I've moved it up the chain. It's a council-run leisure center, which makes it even more egregious. Spoke to someone today who has a different man coming into her the water aerobics, which is fine because that's not women only, but then going into the female changing room, alarming all of these mostly older women, particularly the Muslim women. It shouldn't have to be that just because women are Muslim, that they change the rule. They should change it for all women because we all deserve this. So, watch this space. Thank you.
I just want to correct you on one thing, and that's that he probably wasn't a thoroughly decent bloke. That was very kind of you. I just think if a man's prepared to go in a female-only space, he's probably just a raging pervert. And he really doesn't care about our boundaries. But you're very kind to say so. So if you're walking past and you're thinking, well, this is a lovely country, you might be wrong. Because this country is one where we pretend that we recognise women's rights, but we're just a little bit more dishonest than the Saudis. We don't cover our women in a fabric prison. We make it impossible for them to go in any female-only space and expect to not have any men in them. So where else does this policy go? Well, it goes into the leisure centres. I recently went into the council, and I implore all of you, whatever the issue, whether it's worrying about raging rapists that we're importing by the hundreds, if you're worried about them, you can get 3 minutes on your full council meeting, and you just prepare a speech, and they'll let you speak. You only have to let them know about 10 minutes before, but it has to be relevant to the agenda. And I would say you can crowbar in women's safety into many parts of the agenda, and then you get 3 minutes to speak, and they can't interrupt you. Women went to speak about women's rights, and what the councillors thought it was appropriate to do is take in handmade placards as council members, as elected members of Bristol, which I used to live in Bristol. I'm not going to say they deserve it, but they did elect them, and they should have known what they were getting, because they didn't make it a secret that they were totally corrupt, ideologically captured morons. But you can go and speak for 3 minutes, and I would implore you to do so. When it comes to women's rights and children's rights, that has an impact on every single policy pretty much in the council. And even if you want to go in and just talk about, I don't know, let's say they're going to do a new road, and you want to talk about men and women and how men and women will find that new road and the new layout and the new roundabout, you can say men, adult human males, and women, adult human females. It's very easy just to crowbar that in, but just to repeatedly get that on record and having it said in the council. Intelligent, articulate women who are now being completely stifled at work, and the civil service is one of those. And obviously in the civil service you get a good pay and you get a great pension, and you probably get good working conditions, or maybe you used to. And I think for them it's been an incredible shock. And what we know is, I mean, a woman in my local Tesco's, she was having to deal with a man changing in the female changing rooms in Tesco's. We know that high-end stores across London, the same is happening, that men working in those stores are using the female-only spaces. We know that women from right to the bottom. Thank you, pink ladies. Let Women Speak is obviously on the side of the pink ladies. They're remarkable. And I might remind them all that if you want a Union flag and pink glitter, pink diamantes, I do a great one. So we know that women, even in like low-paid jobs, right the way across the board, this is where they steal your rights. They steal your rights in your leisure time. They steal your rights in your work time, and sometimes they steal your rights online. I'm still banned from everywhere. So I want to tell all the girls and boys walking by that your school should have single-sex toilets for just girls and just boys. And if your school is making you share with boys, they are breaking the law. And if your school is telling you that boys can be girls and girls can be boys, they are breaking the law. Female-only spaces. You're entitled to female-only spaces, girls, from the age of 8.
There's a school just walking
They
by.
indoctrinate them at
So
schools. We will unwash
she's basically
those
saying to the little
brains.
kids,
Would anyone
I can't really
else like to
record
speak?
them, can I?
You've got to speak, really, otherwise I just look
But you
like
get
a
the point.
lonely person. Are you going to speak?
Hello everybody, this is my first time at Let Women Speak and I wanted to come to this one especially because I wanted to speak to them in there, those in the civil service, because that lot in there, they change, but that lot in there don't, and they need to hear that we're not happy with what they're doing. It's not right that women don't get the women's only spaces that they need. I work in the NHS and we've only just got women's spaces where I work after the building had been up for like nearly 3 years. We got them after the Supreme Court because they didn't want to put the signs on the doors because it might make someone uncomfortable, even though we don't have any trans people where I work. But still, they might get offended somehow. They might find out. And it's ridiculous. And I was originally piqued because of the non-binary thing. We started to get forms in giving non-binary as an identity, and I was like, what is this? This is ridiculous. This doesn't exist. This is all about stereotyping. I thought we got rid of this when I was a little girl in the 80s. It's absolute rubbish. And we have to come out, we have to speak and make our voices heard so that everybody knows that we are not just going to go along with this. We will keep campaigning, keep turning up, keep making a nuisance of ourselves until they listen in there and they do what they're supposed to do. Obey the damn law.
I just want to get more children walking past now. That was fun. Did you see some of the little girls? Yeah. Yes. So, teachers, activist teachers, we are coming for you. We're going to make it difficult, I think, for anybody to teach this nonsense in schools anymore. And it's right across Europe. So I went to the European Union, which I can only say seems like a bit of a racket. It seems like a place where they waste a lot of money. People feel very super important. They have nice lots of committee meetings and so on. But that place is just oozing with money and waste. And they are just about to bring right across Europe, which I think will impact us as well, because the NGOs, they get their money and then they come over here as well. They come over here, brainwashing our kids. But they come over from Europe, these NGOs, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to totally erase what it means to be a woman. Biological sex will not exist. It will just be how you feel. And the things that they're doing in schools, I guess the Basque region is a good example, but right the way through French, German. Germany's got it so bad. I went to Germany at the weekend, and the women over there are just bereft. They don't just have this gender identity nonsense, but they have super brothels. A woman whose child was in a school at age 14, one of the things they had to do was design their ideal brothel in their PSHE. And then obviously you've got surrogacy coming everywhere, but there isn't anywhere across Europe that isn't entirely impacted by this absolute crap. So we have work to do on Turf Island, because I think the Europeans look to us that to succeed, and so we really have to do that. And one of the things we have to do is we have to make sure that we make our voices heard in places where they are not. So again, do go to your councils, do write to your MPs. How we're going to try and help the civil service is, you can just think of a civil service and you can write to them with an FOI, and you can ask about their policies. Try and be specific. Try and make sure that when you ask for an FOI, you make it really narrow. so they can't fob you off for saying it costs too much, it takes too much time. But this is one of the things that you really have to do in order to liberate the women in there, because if they are free to discuss women's rights in the civil service, then the services that the civil service impacts is likely to uphold the law. But if the civil servants are hell-bent on not upholding the law, then we're all actually screwed. Before I wrap up, would anybody else like to speak? Yes.
Hello everyone. I meant to come to this meeting, but I didn't mean to speak, so if this is incoherent, please bear with me. My concern at the moment, apart from the fact that women seem to be constantly saying how scared they are to speak, and we can understand that, because if you've got a group of friends and you think maybe somebody has got a daughter or a son who's a little bit maybe on the edge of this, your fear is that they will reject you because you are effectively condemning their own child to some kind of terrible offence or upset or distress. So I just feel that right now we've got to work on language. What is trans? See, it used to be transsexual, didn't it? It used to be that if a man, usually a man, decided he wanted to be a lady, he'd call himself a transsexual, and everyone kind of went along with that. And then suddenly we began to think, hey, you can't change sex, so maybe we shouldn't use the word sex, let's use the word gender. So gender has suddenly become the word, but as the lady earlier said, gender is just stereotypes. I mean, I can change my gender every day when I get up in the morning. Today, I'm kind of male gender, because I'm wearing jeans. Look, a whole load of ladies are all wearing jeans and trousers. But if a man puts a dress on, it doesn't change his sex, it just changes his idea of his gender. So what is all this? I mean, you do not need to be affirmed to wear a dress. I mean, you don't need surgery, you don't need anyone to give you special care. You can carry on with your rights, you can go to your own men's toilets, you can get a job, you can do all the things, you can go shopping, all the things that any human being can do, you can do no matter what you're wearing. So this whole idea that you need to have special rights as a trans person is just such rubbish. And I think every time we come across someone who says, oh, X, Y, or Z because I'm trans, it's like, well, what rights have you not got that we've all got? Tell me, what rights? Oh, is it the right not to go in the ladies' toilet? That's not a right, that's just your wish. It's not a right that you can go in ladies' toilets. And we just need to say it whenever we come across it. It is not your right, it's your dearest wish because you want to intimidate us into accepting you and validate you in your fetish. Thank you.
Anyone else want to do off the cuff? Yes.
Thank you very much, KJ. I just wanted to flag up that on Monday, sorry, need to move into the picture, sorry. On Monday, I was listening to LBC and I happened to hear Sheila Fogarty talking to Graham Linehan. It was wonderful. It was sometime before 2:20 and went on till 2:30. She gave him absolutely free rein. So I immediately phoned their number and said, can I speak? I spoke to a producer and they put me on within about 10-15 minutes. And I was able to make 3 points. I was asked, obviously, what was my experience as a trans widow? And I gave a reply which was not flattering. It is an experience that only those who've been subject to coercive or controlling behavior in a marriage would understand, and that's of the worst kind. It's like living with a rebellious teenager on a bad day every single day, and he ended up rubbing his head on the wall behind the spare bedroom bed because he was just completely deranged. And then I was asked, I wasn't asked, I launched into, we must get rid of the Gender Recognition Act because what is gender? It's not defined in the Act. So what is it that we're recognising? But gender dysphoria is defined in the Act. That's the illness that you have to suffer, and it is a disorder that's in the Act. And then I got a third point in, which is that, of course, Graham Linehan is absolutely right, that we need to discuss this. Free speech is the key, the cornerstone to truth and enabling the kind of fact finding and opinion forming that we all need as a society. Thank you.
very much. I was just going to see if those kids walking by. I feel like the Pied Piper of Truth. Okay, would you like to come?
So I'm very unprepared because I wasn't expecting to speak. But as nobody else is, not so many ladies are speaking, I'm going to. So I'm in a unique position in that we do work for the NHS, and we did have somebody who trans in our department, and I objected. We have full trans policies. I did try and question them beforehand, but as soon as I knew he was going in, I really kicked off. I sent the email, it was quite stern. I emailed everybody, the CE, the chief officer, the top nursing staff, but I also put in, because it was a while ago, Kemi Badenoch and Victoria Aikens. So it came to the day that he was coming in. Apparently he was seen walking around in the ladies, and I was sort of like, what's happened about my email? And I said, oh, could you come to the office? We're going to just have a little discussion. When I got there, it was a Zoom chat, so they sort of really jumped me a bit. And it was the top brass within the hospital, 12 of them at me. But as I went in, just before I went in, I did think, what would Kelly J do? And I really did have your face in my mind as I went in to do battle with the 12. So I don't know how they thought the meeting was going to go, but it went my way. And that is because I fucking well kicked off. I have not survived 3 attempted rapes, been sexually assaulted in the now teens numbers, to have a man in my space. And neither had any of the other ladies. It really did get very heated. I was told that I had breached, I think, maybe 20 times the UHL policy on trans. And I still will not stick to it. Even now, when people approach me about this person and they go, she, I correct every single person. I said, are you talking about this particular man? And it's he. So they are after me, but so far I've got through. And I would say that when you have these policies, just tell them to F off. Really get very angry. Do not apologise and say, well, I've been told, I don't know how many times that this will go to a disciplinary. I have asked for the disciplinary. Come on, bring it. I will fight you and I will win. Everybody needs, when we have the policies and you think, oh, now I can't speak out. No, that's the moment you do speak out. That is the moment you transgress every single bit of that policy. I really do mean it. My job is just as much on the line as anybody else's, because it's the NHS and they can discipline you. But so far, they have been too intimidated to do it. Speak up, speak out, and tell them to fuck off!